Many locations around the world are completely restricted from access for various reasons. Even for those who explore every corner of the planet, some of these places will remain inaccessible. In other words, in some cases, it is possible to visit them, but it will probably be your last trip. You will discover some areas scattered across the globe that, due to extreme weather conditions or prohibitions from authorities, you are unlikely to set foot in. Plutos Gate. Plutos Gate is a cave located in the ancient city of Hierapolis, near modern Pamukkale, Turkey. In the past, the ancient Greco-Romans considered it a passage to hell due to the lethal gases that emanated from it, causing the death of unsuspecting animals that tried to enter, and inducing hallucinations and visions in people who approached it. The region is famous for its thermal waters heated by the same toxic gases. During excavations, the researchers themselves witnessed the instant death of numerous birds that tried to approach the cave entrance. The ancients believed that these deadly vapors were sent by Pluto, the god of the dead in mythology, and therefore the place came to be considered an entrance to the underworld. Today, the remains of Plutos Gate are a major tourist attraction in Pamukkale. Visitors can explore the cave and admire the travertine formations. However, the actual entrance to the cave was closed for safety reasons, as prolonged exposure to the toxic gases still present in the cave could be harmful to health. Ciry Island, located in Iceland, is one of the places prohibited for visiting for several reasons. It emerged in 1963 after a volcanic eruption that lasted about 3 years, creating an extensive surface above sea level. The island has become a scientific experiment to understand the formation of ecosystems without human intervention, and only a few scientists are allowed access. There is a small structure on the island for scientists, but there are strict rules for staying and entering the area, including a strict ban on bringing seeds. The Ciry Island study offered scientists a unique opportunity to observe the process of colonization and recolonization of ecosystems in real time. Initially, the island was a barren environment, composed mainly of volcanic rocks and barren soil. However, as time passed, life began to settle on the island. First, pioneering lichens and mosses began to colonize the rocks. Soon after, larger plants such as grasses began to grow. Marine life has also recovered in the waters surrounding the island. Seabirds began nesting on the island, and seals often rested on the beaches. Scientists have meticulously studied these colonization processes and the way life adapted and flourished in such a challenging environment. Ciry Island has been declared a nature reserve and is strictly protected to preserve its natural evolution. Access to the island is restricted to scientists and researchers with special permission in order to minimize human interference in the natural processes occurring there. In short, Ciry Island is an extraordinary example of the dynamics of nature and the ability of life to adapt to and colonize extreme environments. Furthermore, it provides valuable information for scientific research on newly formed ecosystems and colonization processes, making it a unique natural laboratory in the world. Serranama. Serranama is a huge sinkhole that is by far one of the biggest sinkholes in the world. Its discovery occurred in 1964 in Venezuela, close to the border with Brazil, through soil analyses carried out using satellite mapping. Until then, many believed that the crater had been formed due to the impact of a large celestial body. Studies have revealed that this area, made up of a granite mountain, went through an erosion process thousands of years ago, resulting in a gradual sinking that continues to this day. The sinkhole is an impressive 350 meters long and appears in the middle of a mountainous setting as if it were a huge natural cauldron. Its edge is covered by dense vegetation, and access is so difficult that it was only in 1958 that the area was properly explored, and entry into the depression only occurred in the 1970s. The indigenous tribes that inhabited the region considered the hole to be a sacred place, where primitive people performed sacrificial rituals, throwing victims into the cauldron in an attempt to appease the wrath of the gods represented by the natural elements. There are local legends that claim that the hole is the home of ancient people who descended to unfathomable depths and transformed into less human and more animalistic beings, as they never managed to return. Poglia Island, located in Venice, northern Italy, has gained a reputation for being cursed due to its history full of mysteries and supernatural events. Despite its relatively small size for an island, it has a history of paranormal occurrences. In 1776, Italian authorities discovered that there were people infected with bubonic plague on board 2 ships and decided to reroute the vessel's routes to anchor them on the island, where the crew were quarantined. Without a plan for outside help, the incident turned into a bizarre tragedy. Over time, the new inhabitants who arrived on the infected ships were infected by the already sick passengers, resulting in the infection of the entire island population. Authorities estimate that around 16,000 people have died from the disease. The thousands of bodies were initially buried in mass graves and later, due to lack of space, they were burned. It is believed that today, approximately 50% of Poglia's soil is made up of ash and human remains. The island was closed in 1968 and has remained inaccessible to visitors ever since, with entry restricted to researchers and government officials only. Somewhere between East Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia lies Garcia Island. This island is of great strategic importance to the United States Navy, housing a crucial military base, including some of the CIA's most important floating bases. During the Cold War, the United Kingdom leased the island to the United States for 50 years, despite it already having a native population. Between 1968 and 1973, the British government forcibly expelled around 2,000 people, relocating them to other British territories. Since then, the natives have been trying unsuccessfully to regain the right to return to their homes. In 2016, Garcia's lease expired, but the United Kingdom extended the lease for another 20 years. Natives, like anyone else, remain prohibited from visiting the island. Pyramid of El Castillo. The Great Pyramid of El Castillo, also known as the Pyramid of Kukulkan, is the largest and most important structure in the ancient Mayan city, located on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. According to scholars, the pyramid is 55.5 meters long and 30 meters high. However, there are 2 additional layers inside, one of which hides a natural well. Using tomography techniques to explore the interior of the pyramid, including what is hidden beneath it, experts from the Institute of Geophysics and the Faculty of Day of the National Autonomous University of Mexico were able to reveal the secrets kept inside. The tomography technique involves the use of detectors positioned in and around the pyramid that emit electrical currents, allowing the measurement of subsoil resistance and visualization of the interior, all without causing damage to the structure. However, even with these discoveries, scholars are not allowed to enter the pyramid. Despite being a famous tourist attraction in the region, no one can access the pyramids, or cenotes considered sacred by the Mayans. Cenotes are deep wells with crystal-clear water that are accessible when a cave collapses. Although there are hundreds of cenotes in Mexico, some of them, like the pyramids, are inaccessible. This ban was imposed after the local government realized that tourism was causing wear and tear on the structures. Since then, these sites have been studied by archaeologists, and in some cases, obstacles have been installed at the entrances to the cenotes to protect the environment. Brother Island. On Brother Island every year, millions of tourists eager to explore every corner of the city visit the place. However, access to the island is restricted and requires prior authorization, as all buildings on the island are in a dangerous state of deterioration. Inside the island's buildings, nature is slowly taking over the abandoned structures and ruins that were once part of New York City's quarantine hospital. The island's history is filled with death and disease, as from the 1880s to the 1940s, the island was used to quarantine people with highly contagious diseases. All those who died during this period were buried on the island. The island later served as a rehabilitation center for drug addicts, starting in 1951, but was abandoned in 1963. The island is now owned by the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, which manages it as a bird sanctuary. Heard Island. At first glance, Heard Island may simply seem like a beautiful and mysterious place, a true postcard situated between Australia and Antarctica. After all, it's not every day that you have the opportunity to see a completely frozen island up close, shrouded in mist with a mountain that reaches the clouds. It might seem like an ideal place to explore and take selfies, right? Wrong. Despite belonging to Australia, Heard Island is located 4,000 kilometers away from the country, in one of the most remote places on the planet. Its temperatures remain below freezing year-round, and the reason humans are prohibited from setting foot on its soil is that the island is dominated by an active volcano that rises 2,750 meters above sea level. In fact, Heard Island is one of the most dangerous places for people on Earth, and the chances of fatalities in these conditions are so high that the Australian government has imposed several restrictions to prevent visits to the island. It is also in a disputed area between Russia and France.